I think Marcus Rashford created his own narrative with Amorim.
Right.
And Amorim said, right, I'm not having you instantaneously. You know as well as I do that the culture of Man United has allowed a development inside that football club that's allowed individuals to behave in certain ways. But it's 25% cut, a lot of you. That's the end of the discussion. You can all come in the room and shout at me if you want, but you're not coming individually.
Well, Bruno could turn around and go, well, I'll go then. Because he's wanted.
So what I used to do is go, so when do these bonuses get paid then? Monthly. Says who?
See, I get a bonus every week if I can suffer you for 4 consecutive days. But at the moment, it's a struggle.
Have you noticed how he's getting a bit ahead of himself? He lives in a very fashionable flat. He's sporting a Royal Opera House pen. Getting a bit... And now he endures us.
And he now shops at Hugo Boss for Poland.
Correct. Thank you very much. I'm glad you noticed that, Danny. So near but so far. Aston Villa's PSG fight back fell short. I listened to Rooney quite closely last night. I thought Wayne Rooney spoke very well, Danny. But as the dust settles on last night, has regret got to be the overriding emotion coming out this morning?
I'd say there'll be mixed emotions. I'd feel mixed emotions. Pride of the response.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think disappointment in the fact that they caused them so many problems second half. Keeper made a couple of great saves. Yeah, I think they'll be disappointed when they watch it back because it was a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And they made enough chances. I mean, a couple of the saves were fantastic, weren't they?
I think so. I think that's it. This lingering what-if feeling, Simon.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
I mean, goalkeepers make saves. That's what they're supposed to do. And that's why you get the best goalkeepers in the best teams making the best saves. It's part and parcel of what a football team does.
No, Simon, they had them there. They had them there.
Yeah, but
I just meant, in terms of a couple of the chances, the one that header Konza missed was a blatant miss. And Asensio threw one
when you're 3-1 down in the first leg and you go into the second leg and you go 2-0 down, it almost feels like there's almost a license to play.
Yeah, there is.
And gives you an opportunity to be braver than perhaps you would be if you're still in the game.
Yeah.
So I think Villa have got to take away the fact that they've gone deep in a Champions League, the first time they've been there for 40 years. They've built themselves an opportunity to be a club that people will be looking at differently. They've got an FA Cup semi-final coming up.
Yeah.
So I think that Emery will take a lot more out of that game and not allow them to dwell on what could have been, rather than what can still be for them.
I think the highlight of it was, I mean, I know there's a lot of chat around Rashford, but that 20 minutes he had, I was surprised he brought him off, by the way, because he was causing them all sorts of problems. But that's the Rashford everyone has seen before and expected.
But he gave a lot, Danny, physically, did he not? I mean, maybe it was time for him to come off. I don't know.
He didn't look tired.
No. I mean, will they get a better opportunity to land at the door of the Champions League semi-finals again, Danny? I mean, that's what it's hard to tell, but that might be the moment, and it's gone.
I think this format gives them more chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's difficult one. You need a bit of luck along the way. They've got to get in it first. I don't think the strength Villa have got in depth and the quality they've got, and also the backers they've got. I think they've got a few quid, haven't they? So
Oh yeah.
I don't envisage Villa falling away.
So we're as Edens.
Sure.
Oh yeah, no problem there.
I mean, the only thing is, again, that they will still be caught in the same trap.
Yeah.
It ridiculously catches teams that are trying to progress, which is the inability to be able to buy to match the teams that are already there.
Yes. I think because you've gone on and on, not in any kind of nauseating fashion, Simon, about PSR on this show, I think things are almost bound to change because I have to say, Danny, sparing his blushes, when he talks to authorities, listen, I do think, Simon, it's a matter of time before it changes.
Well, I don't think it's anything that I would be saying on a radio station, but I think it's inevitably going to become a conclusion that someone's going to have to draw. The challenge is that the way the league is constructed, if you've got 6 sides or 7 sides that want to object to it, and let's remember the 6 sides that will definitely object to the fact that if you open the market up again, they're going to be challenged, all of a sudden you're in the same position.
Right.
So it's not a case of common sense prevailing and ultimately people being able to build football teams back into a stage that they want them to, or into a stage they want them at. It's a case of whether they're going to be allowed to by the individual clubs that potentially won't want them to do it, or not potentially won't want them to do it.
Yeah.
Why Man City and Liverpool and Arsenal and Chelsea and Manchester United and teams that already got this huge turnover going to say, well, I'll tell you what, you guys can build and take away what we've already got. They're not. Are they?
Do you put Villa in your moment in time category, incidentally?
Yeah, I do. I think that not in a disrespectful way. I mean, I've tipped Villa to win the cup, and I've got my team playing against them in the semi-finals.
Right,
and that's not because they're playing my team. I tipped them before they drew Palace in the semi-finals.
Yeah.
So I think they've got a great squad, they've got great ownership, and they've got a great coach. So they've got all the ingredients. They might just have to be a little bit patient about how they concertina, i.e., go down and up again in terms of where they finish in the league next year.
Yeah.
The PSR stuff, I agree with Simon. I mean, what is it, the famous saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's, it's a bit like that, isn't it? It's like a closed shop.
No, I think it's a matter of time.
Well, I've done a sea change on it. I've done a complete 180 degrees.
I know.
Because I originally thought this is a good way to reduce hyperinflation, to get controls into place. It's not.
Yeah.
It protects the cabal.
Is it a moment in time for Aston Villa? Unai Emery post-match said, I hope not.
We are in our process, and in the process we are doing here, tonight was the highest level we achieved. Of course, in Premier League we are playing against teams with the same level like PSG. Next Saturday we are going to play at Newcastle, the same level, Manchester City next week. But in Champions League and against teams like PSG, of course, is when we can test ourselves and how we are responding. And I am so proud, I am so happy, and I am really confident how we are doing this way, how we are increasing our standard, our demands, and how we are achieving the objective we can have. Of course, we are finishing here in quarter final, and hopefully we can come back again quick again to play in Champions League. This is the objective. This is the next objective we will have for the next 6 matches we're going to play in Premier League, and to get Europe, and hopefully to get Champions League, and to play in FA Cup as well for a trophy.
I hope they're back. I hope it's not a moment in time. I hope they're back. Rajesh is a Villa fan. Rajesh, I think you were there last night, mate. Were you?
Yes, good morning, Jim. Good morning, Simon. Good morning, Danny.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. What's your take on it? I mean, is it a moment in time, or will you be back?
Personally, we will be back, but I thought that was a moment in time. It's like a boxer having, someone on the ropes, and then we let PSG get away with it. I think we should have taken that game into extra time. Donnarumma, I don't know what he's got against the English. He had a really good game against, obviously in the UEFA Cup against England. He saved the penalties against Liverpool and yesterday. But the atmosphere was amazing, especially second half. It was just incredible. Really, really. I was so gutted. Got home at 1 o'clock in the morning. I live in London with my kids, and it was my son's birthday yesterday as well, funny enough, when we went. And I could not sleep until 2:30, and I was up early because all I could think was we should have taken that game. We should have taken that game.
So it's a feeling of regret this morning, Rajesh, is it?
I think so, Jim. Yeah, I think so. I think they were there for taking. They were rocking. They were absolutely rocking PSG. They were gone after Gonza scored the third goal.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you've got this FA Cup semi-final, very winnable game. The way if you play somewhere near your best, you've got a great chance. It's an amazing season for you in the fact that the supporters have now, you've not just got one competition and it's all gone. You can now, as players, fans, as a club, you can wake up and go, proud of ourselves, but let's go and win the FA Cup.
Is it difficult as a player to pick yourself up after that, Danny, though?
No, not when
you've got the FA Cup semi-final, It's a big finish in the Premier League, yes.
That's the focus.
But they're out this incredible competition.
You just got to quickly do the post-match, have a look at the positives, the negatives.
But psychologically, was that not draining for them last night?
No, I think they'll take the pros from it.
Yeah.
They'll look at it and go, when we're at it, and we go after teams, we can cause anyone problem.
Quite a lot of questions coming in from some fans, not just Villa fans. Simon benched for the 2 biggest games in Villa's recent history and replaced by an on-loan Marcus Rashford. Of course, Simon, Danny, I'm talking about Ollie Watkins. Where do you think he sits in the mind of Unai Emery?
Do you know what? It's a difficult one because, what it does show is that the manager's ruthless. That he's picked somebody who's got on loan ahead of somebody who's contracted to the club in 2 of the biggest games. So that tells you Emery's focus is team, Villa, not people, not in terms of keeping people happy or thinking longer term. It's like, let's win now.
Yeah.
I think he values Watkins. I mean, he's played a lot of minutes for him and he's done well for him. He's a good player. In terms of will it upset him enough to want to kick the door down and say, I've had enough?
Yeah.
There's always that chance, but he doesn't come across Watkins as that type. I think he seems a pretty down-to-earth lad who's grateful for the opportunity he's got. But we'll have to wait and see because there will be takers for him if he does want to leave.
I want to talk Marcus Rashford in a second. Unai Emery, Simon, is he your kind of guy?
He seems to be not if he's my kind of guy. He's an effective manager. And for any owner, an effective manager that doesn't cause him harm in the media and produces a team and enables someone to do their job, so that you can give them lots of latitude, lots of rope. They can, like people are saying now, he doesn't run the club, he runs the footballing operation.
Yeah.
But when you've got someone that's capable and does the job and creates the outcomes and is producing a side that is reflective of the sort of side that you want, there's not a lot that most owners would say, well, that's not my sort of guy, because most owners would say that is my sort of guy.
Right. Wayne Rooney, as I mentioned last night, was speaking post-match, Danny. He was speaking, well, before, during and after, of course. But on Marcus Rashford, I'm wondering if Wayne is letting his head rule his heart or his heart rule his head, one or the other. He says Marcus Rashford wants to play for Manchester United, 100%. He's a Manchester lad, Manchester United fan, and over the last couple of years it's been difficult. He needs to play, and it was clear he wouldn't play for the rest of the season at United. He has clearly shown sometimes you have to keep banging on the manager's door, put them in a position where they can't leave you out. In an ideal world, he would like to leave a legacy at United. Whether that's possible, I don't know. But this is what I'd love to see. He wants to play for Manchester United. Do you share that view?
Well, I would have said no, because all I'm thinking of is Rashford's desire and outburst about wanting to leave and find a new challenge. That tells me he wants to leave. But Rooney probably knows him better than me. So if Rooney's saying that categorically or emphatically like he did last night, I would imagine he's had a conversation with him. So,
or he just talks drivel.
Yeah,
or that possibility, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. But look, as far as I'm concerned, if you take away what he earns, and I'm Ruben Amorim, when I come through the door and I look at what I've got, Ruben Amorim should be able to get out of Rashford what Emery's getting out of him. Now, you can't compare the level of performance because at Villa he's playing with better players.
Right.
In a better organised team. So he's going to look better. But the physical output of Rashford at Villa is chalk and cheese to the physical output of Rashford.
Although the narrative being run last week by a lot of people that are very balanced and very fair and were actually Villa-centric, and Andy Townsend was talking about, a few other people were talking about last week, was that he didn't do much last week against PSG. He didn't do the things that they would expect him to do. He didn't show the energy output. He didn't make the centre-halves work hard in the game. And so ultimately he didn't produce the outcomes that people would have anticipated.
I think that's a bit short-sighted,
albeit he was on his own.
Yeah.
I think Marcus Rashford, of course he wants to play for Man United. The challenge is, he wants to play for Manchester United on his terms. He wants to live the kind of life that he lives, allegedly, that creates challenges off the field.
Yeah.
He wants to play when he feels like playing. He wants a culture that suits him. So the Man United that now exists is an environment that Marcus Rashford wants to play in his terms. The challenge is to get Man United back to where it was 10, 12 years ago. It needs a cultural reboot. And he's been brought up in an environment which has enabled him to subsequently think that he can do what he wishes at Manchester United and not have to do it week in, week out. You've got Man United fans in their droves, phoning into shows week after week saying, don't want this fella back.
Yeah.
Now, these are. I mean, I know you can always have people on the extremes, but the level of calls that we got a couple of weeks ago was one after the other, after the other, after the other.
Yes.
Get him gone. Get him gone.
So the question is, I suppose, back to the original point, is what Rooney's saying because he's spoken to Rashford and he knows there's been a change of heart, or is he just saying it because that's what he thinks?
Well, Dan, when Rooney says he has clearly shown sometimes you have to keep banging on the manager's door, which manager's door is he talking about? Amorim's or Unai Emery's?
Well, he's talking about Amorim, isn't he? He doesn't need to bang on Emery's door.
Has Amorim made a mistake?
I personally think he did by letting him go because of how poor the forwards he's got there are. I think a manager worth his salt would get Rashford playing, even in a poorer side. That's my feel.
I mean, you can make that argument. What do
You've got to respect that, Simon. This fella played at the highest level.
You can. You don't have to agree with it to respect it. Yes, I disagree to some extent. I'm not challenging Danny's understanding of playing at elite football clubs. I'm looking at the situation saying, yes, as an owner, you want your manager as a person in authority to be able to make the resources that he's got work for him. When a player comes out and does a press interview of someone like Henry Winter, which is his whole raison d'etre is to be sycophantic to players and put their argument out in the world, why would you then say he's for me?
Well, hold on.
Now, the argument
put it on a timescale. So that was nearing the end when he did go to it. It was just a month or so before, wasn't it?
No, hold on. I mean,
Amorim has been in how long?
Amorim had been there for a month. Less than a month when he did that.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it was in December.
A few weeks after he left him out of the squad.
It was in December, and in January he goes out on loan.
Yeah, he's right. Yeah.
It's a very limited space of time. He took the job over in November, December, drew Ipswich, and Marcus Rashford was posting,
But he'd left him out of the squad before that, hadn't he?
posting pictures of how much he loved the training with the new gaffer, and within 3 weeks, he's doing a press interview with Henry Winter, and he's out on loan.
But he'd left him out of the squad, him and Garnacho, hadn't he? He'd left them both out of the squad a few weeks
The
before
Manchester
that.
derby.
And then I think that's what triggered Rashford's response. It's like, I'm getting bombed out of the squad.
He brought Garnacho back, but he didn't bring Rashford
Correct. But my feeling is that when you walk into a club, unless, look, I might be being harsh on Amorim because he might have been dictated to by the hierarchy. I don't know. But the reality is when you walk into a squad of players, your first job is to protect yourself and get some results. And when you look at Man United's front line, Rashford's better than what they've got.
It's a fascinating debate because people will have you believe that an owner would suggest to Amorim that they were desperate to get in the door. They were desperate for Amorim. They wanted to get rid of Ten Hag. They needed a fix. They went after Amorim, hammer and tongs.
Yeah.
So before they went after Amorim, they laid a set of conditions down to him. By the way, you can only come to this football club if you accept the fact that we want you to get rid of Rashford.
No, maybe they didn't.
I know, but my point is I don't believe that narrative.
No,
I think Marcus Rashford created his own narrative with Amorim,
right.
and Amorim said, right, I'm not having you instantaneously as a result of
I
it.
still think it's best for Rashford to leave, by the way.
So do I.
Yeah. Didn't go unnoticed at the weekend that again, much talked about Ruben Amorim decided, no, Onana, you're not for me. At the weekend against Newcastle United, and he threw in Altay Bandar in goal against Newcastle and promptly lost the game by 4-1. Now The Athletic reported that Onana, the same Andre Onana, was left shocked by the squad-wide pay cuts after the club failed to qualify for the Champions League last season. Onana's current terms include a squad-wide pay cut for non-qualification of 25% that can be negotiated individually. The goalkeeper reportedly found the financial drop as a shock to the system when activated last summer, when United said, no, we meant it. We meant what we said. And we're activating the wage cut. And it led to him taking it up with the then sporting director, Dan Ashworth. One wonders, where is it going for Andre Onana? What message does it send, Danny, if he isn't reintegrated for the club's biggest game of the season that's coming along tomorrow night against Lyon at Old Trafford?
Well, I think if he doesn't play, it's just a moment in time where the manager's questioning his mind where he's at. You know, it's not necessarily questioning his future. It's saying at the moment you're not quite at it, you've been making 2 mistakes and I'm giving somebody else a run. I wouldn't look at it more than that. Amorim's trying to do the best for Manchester United, pick the best team to get through this tie. I do think they'll get through whoever plays in goal, by the way. But
you think?
I think for Bayendier, it would be a kick in the teeth to put him in and then take him straight back out because of one mistake in a game where they were getting pummeled.
So you think he'll play tomorrow night?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Sammy, before I get your take on this, and in general, actually, incentivised contracts, why don't we have more of those in football? Because it's a bit of a head turner, and Anna didn't like it. Probably the rest of the United players didn't either.
There's more than you think.
Does it incentivise them? That's the bigger question. On Onana being dropped at the weekend, this was Amorim on that topic.
I understood that sometimes a player need to be pushed and to put again to play, and sometimes I think the player needs to disconnect, and it was my choice. I left him at home because you understand that every time he goes to the bench, any situation of the game, the cameras would be on him, and he was not playing. He was on the bench, but feeling the pressure, feeling the moment. So for me, it was one thing or another. Or you play or you stay at home was my choice.
It was his choice, and Onana stayed at home. In came Bayendier, and they lost 4-1. Danny thinks Bayendier will be in goal tomorrow night. We shall see. Simon, performance-related bonuses for players. Should it work both ways?
See, I don't necessarily think this is a pay cut. I think he signed a contract with a team that had Champions League as part of his wages, and the moment they're not, then they don't get paid Champions League money. So there's
in effect it, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a pay cut.
They'll view it as, well, if you've got a contract that's based upon being in the Champions League, and then you're not in the Champions League, you're reverting to the pay that you should be on as a result of the club not being in the Champions League.
Understood.
So I
you've lost your bonus.
Yeah, you've lost the upside of the opportunity that you've been given.
And he's surprised they activated it, reportedly.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think he's probably not surprised, he's probably disappointed.
Yeah.
The interesting language that I'm trying to understand is but it can be negotiated individually. So does that mean that players can rock into the manager's office or the chief executive office and say, I don't fancy being part of this 25% regime, and here's the reason why? Because that would create anarchy in a dressing room.
Well, not really.
Well, it would to some extent because you're all part. So hang on a second.
It would because of agents.
So you're all in a dressing room. You all contributed to the team not being in the Champions League. You get a 25% reduction back to a level that you were at when you were in the Champions League, and another fella doesn't.
Well, if
you'd be all right with that, would you?
Well, I'll give you an example. So if you're at
the answer is no. He wouldn't be all right with it.
Well, it depends. So, for example, if you're Manchester United and you know that Bruno's the only one who hasn't had that invoked, you can't really argue because he's been the best player by a country mile, and you kind of go, do you know what? Fair enough.
But it leaves you a hostage to fortune.
It does, yeah.
So someone that shouts louder, someone that kicks up rougher, someone that's got more to say for themselves because they were bought for a bigger transfer fee and subsequently they don't want to ostracise the player because he's getting what he considers to be a pay cut, which is not a pay cut, it's just a recognition of what you achieved as a collective. So ultimately you've got 10 players that go in there, 5 of them shout really loud, they've been bought for 50, 60 million quid, the club don't want to disenfranchise them or disillusion them, so they don't give the 25% pay cut. All of a sudden you've got a disjointed, a dysfunctional change.
Yeah, but then in some respects you're going against your own, what you've said in the past around, you got to like it or lump it. I'm the boss, and you do as you signed the contract.
Agreed.
And if you feel complimentary enough to say to one or two of them, I'm
not telling you what's right. I'm telling you what will manifest itself.
Yeah, what I find bizarre, Simon, is that Onana's current terms include a squad-wide pay cut for non-qualification for the Champions League of 25%. So, what do you know? They don't qualify for the Champions League. The same Onana reportedly found that drop as a shock to the system when they activated it. When he said, "Oh, hang on a minute,
do you know
you
why
actually meant what you said in that contract."
I bet you he didn't know because his agent didn't tell him.
We should read his contract then. But I bet you, he wouldn't have been surprised if he got a 25% bonus. He'd have known about that one.
Yeah.
What? A 25% increase for something?
Do you know what,
I'm
it is?
surprised by that.
Did it annoy the hell out of you when you had to pay players contractually agreed bonuses?
No, because if I hadn't, I was prepared.
Goal scoring bonuses?
Yeah.
Did you have shutout bonuses for your goalkeeper?
Clean sheets? Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've written about it before, which is ridiculous. You're paying a goal scorer top money to be a goal scorer, and then you pay him a bonus for doing the very thing he's there for in the first place.
Exactly.
Because if he doesn't do it, what's he there for in the first place?
Yeah, but there's a caveat to that, because what you're probably saying is I'll give you extra for scoring more
Correct.
than a dozen.
So for Andrew Johnson, I gave him nothing up to 15 goals because I figured I'd bought that.
There you go.
So after that, I then gave him a big bonus every one, and above that, up into 20s and 25s.
So did it work the other way? Are you totally with United and what they're doing here?
Yes.
No, Andre. You didn't qualify for the Champions League, so we'll have that 25% back. You're not getting it.
Yes, and I hope that they have the courage of their convictions to stay with it. What I don't like is a clause which says they can negotiate it individually. You've either got a 25% reduction or you don't.
Well, I suppose that is a bit silly, because really what you could do is you could pick and choose who you give that deduction to. Reduction.
Which is what this language allows you to do. If we're reading this language as it seems to be put forward, and I'm trying to look at the athletic article at the same time, if you've got the ability to go and negotiate individually on a global position, then you've just disarmed the global position.
Yeah,
and you've created.
But if you're comfortable in your leadership role and you've got good people in the hierarchy, it's a very easy, yes, you're getting done and you're not.
But you know as well as I do that the culture of Man United has allowed a development inside that football club that's allowed individuals to behave in certain ways. Have created a lack of winning culture. If you're going to make a team a collective, it's a sum of all its parts, and the best teams are unified in their approach. Right? There were individuals in it.
No, I know where you come from.
So all of a sudden you go, you can not have it. You can.
Yeah, but
you cannot have it. You can.
But isn't it a bit?
I think so.
Isn't it a bit like
you're making yourself a hostage to fortune?
But it's
25% cut. A lot of you. That's the end of the discussion. You can all come in the room and shout at me if you want, but you're not coming individually.
But if you at Liverpool, there's a few young lads coming through together. Michael Owen's a superstar, scoring goals in World Cups and scaring defences and looking like a superstar, and he jumps to the top level of the pay. Yeah. You don't then get the rest of us knocking on the door going, why is he getting that? We're on the same journey. We've played the same. It's like you just understand your role.
But they all didn't qualify for the Champions League last season. Not just Onana.
So
Onana's taking it up.
But Bruno could turn around and go, well, I'll go then. Because he's wanted. Someone will take Bruno every day.
Right. So
it's capitalism, isn't it?
But hang on. Bruno signed a contract.
He did.
That contained a 25% clause. So Bruno can now buck the system and come back in and defeat the argument which you're saying, which is
because the owner might go, no, you're getting done as well.
But we know as well as if it's not there in the first place, the thing is there. It's a 25%.
Better to have it there than not have it there and then try and take money off them.
It's a 20. No, because you wouldn't be able to.
Exactly.
Contractually, you've got a very clear situation. So the players, in this instance, shouldn't be able to go back into the management's office and go, "I'd like to negotiate as an individual."
Yeah, as a very fair owner, and obviously you were one.
Very fair.
Did you ever try to impose something like, 6 losses on the trot, 6 consecutive losses? I take 10%.
That'd just be a relegation.
No, you can't. You have a contractual position that you sign with the players. The only thing you
it can't work both ways.
The only thing you can fiddle about with it at the beginning of the season, you have to have the players' consent with it, which is the bonuses that they get. So the win bonuses they get, you can go to them at the beginning of the season, sit with the players' committee. So what I used to do is go, so when do these bonuses get paid then? Monthly. Says who? Well, it's established. Established where? I'm going to pay them annually now, unless I get what I want, which is a reduction of bonuses and a changing of bonuses.
How did that go down?
Well, I was told,
Like
I was told it was going to be anarchy, and when I went into the players and explained to them it wasn't a discussion, it was a decision, they just got on with it.
I had it at Fulham, Jim. I had about 20% of my annual salary, based on appearances that I didn't get till the end of the season.
Right.
And I had to like it or lump it.
But it was an established ethos that the players thought was given, which is we get our bonuses on a monthly basis. And I said, well, where's that written down then? Because you're very clear telling me where things are written down. Where's it written? Oh, it's not written down.
Right.
So my interpretation is now prevalent. If I can get away with paying bonuses over 2 years, I will over 2 years.
See, I get a bonus every week if I can suffer you for 4 consecutive days. But at the moment, it's a struggle.
Have you noticed how he's getting a bit ahead of himself? He lives in a very fashionable flat. He's sporting a Royal Opera House pen, getting a bit. And now he endures us.
And he now shops at Hugo Boss for Poland.
Correct. Thank you very much. I'm glad you noticed that, Danny. Wayne Rooney last night on Marcus Rashford, who's on loan to Aston Villa. Marcus Rashford, says Wayne, wants to play for Manchester United 100%. He's a Manchester lad, Manchester fan, and over the last couple of years, it's been difficult. He has to keep banging on the manager's door, put them in a position where they can't leave you out. In an ideal world, he would like to leave a legacy at United. Whether that's possible or not, I don't know. This is what I'd love to see. United fans, would you love to see that? Judging by some of the messages I'm getting, maybe not. There is one there, no name in this one. Under no circumstances do I want Rashford back. If he returned, he'd give us a good month, of course he would. Then he'd go back to the Rashford we know. 03717 223344. Danny's here, so is Simon. Steve, you're first up, big United fan. Where are you at with Marcus Rashford, Steve?
I think he gets a bad rap all the time, right? He's a better player than any United forward, right? We paid 70 million for somebody who can't score a goal at United. Rashford cost us 0, right? And yet we get rid of Rashford, right, and keep all the rubbish that going. We've lost about in the last 4 or 5 matches. We've not won any matches. Yet we said, oh, it's Rashford's fault. You cannot get rid of your best players, right? You work with them till they're good enough, or they tell them maybe had some problems, right? You can't blame him for United's performances.
So
I think the key is, and I hear where you're coming from. I think the key has been for most fans, and I might be wrong, but it feels like when I listen to Man United, it's not the fact his goal scoring didn't hit the heights of his wonderful season a couple of years ago. It's more the physical output. At times, his body language, he looked deflated, like there was a lethargy about him. Would that be fair? That's the majority.
No. Last night, Andy Townsend at half-time slagged off Rashford. He said he's the worst player Villa's ever had. Right? He should be ashamed of himself, right? He nearly won the game for Villa yesterday, or got them into extra time, right? If Donnarumma hadn't made that great save. Andy Townsend, he blamed it for 85 yards. He said Rashford lost the ball 85 yards away, and he said it was his fault. They scored. So there's 10 other players.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that Andy Townsend didn't say he was the worst ever player to play for Aston Villa.
No, he didn't, but he did criticise him for the goal, which I thought again was
harsh.
Yeah.
Steve, you might want to bear with us. Stay on the line, because here's Joe, another United fan. Where is your head with Marcus Rashford, Joe? Good morning.
Good morning. Well, first of all, I need to apologise to Simon. The last time I was on, I forgot to thank him for pushing back on greedy Premiership players, greedy Premiership managers and their greedy agents. So thank you, Simon, for pushing back.
You're welcome, mate.
Regarding Marcus Rashford, it's just not just about Marcus. It's all of these players given second chances, third chances. You're constantly giving them second chances. He's had his chance. It's as simple as that. He's not delivered. He is not delivering. And forevermore giving them chances. It's got to stop. We have to push back.
Right, Steve, you heard Joe. What's your take on that?
He's having a laugh. Rashford does not decide his own salary. The club decides his salary, right? So don't keep thinking, oh, he paid 300,000. That's nothing to do with him. If the club decides he's good enough for that, and Rashford has won more trophies at United than any other player there now. Right?
Yeah, but that's a wonderful observation. But he does decide his salary because he negotiates it with the club. And your point, I haven't finished. Then the point is that the club will agree to it or not. And then the most important thing is the player has to then be worth it. And the argument about Rashford is no industry, no outcome, poor attitude and examples where he doesn't.
Joke again.
No industry. No, it's not. It's a difference of opinion, isn't it?
It's a joke. Harry Kane played for England in the Euros, right? He's back as the captain. He did zilch in the Euros, right? He didn't even lift a leg.
Agreed.
Right? He ran up like.
Agreed. So let me go. What's Boundary got to do with it?
Well, let him finish.
If Rashford had gone to the Euros, England would have won it. Harry Kane did nothing. Harry Kane's got no pace, no power.
Okay,
right?
so once we get past the Marcus Rashford Appreciation Society and we move into the reality, we move into the reality of what he is. Over the last 2 years,
you don't get 60 England caps for nothing.
Well, I don't know. You get some from certain players that have played for England that haven't performed much.
No, you don't.
Okay, all right. Well, let's move past your expertise and move into some realities. Over the last 2 years, from Marcus Rashford, we've seen very little in industry. We've seen very little in outcomes. We've seen some indiscretions where he doesn't turn up for training and goes out in the evenings after his team got smashed by Man City. And then we hear him whining on podcasts. I think those 5 factors have created a downward pressure on Marcus Rashford. I told everybody in this studio in January that he will run around and lift a leg and he'll be a revelation at Aston Villa. And it's no surprise to me. And I'll tell you what, you could have him back at Man United next year because I think it's a safe bet. I think it's a safe bet. He'll be a revelation at Manchester United.
What did you just say there, Steve?
The club has underperformed. The club, right? All the staff, the club. That's why we've had 5 managers in the last 5 seasons, right? Not Rashford, right? You don't sell your best player. It's ridiculous.
Well, he's probably not your best player.
Steve, boil it down for me. Do you want him back at United?
Not now. I think he should stay at Villa. He'll win more at Villa.
Are you a Villa fan?
He's appreciated there. He's appreciated at Villa.
Are you a Villa fan? Are you a Villa fan?
I'm a Man United fan.
Right. So if I was a Man United fan, I'd actually have Rashford back next season because I tell you what. Should I tell you why I'd have him back next year?
Yeah.
Because he wants to play for England in the World Cup, and you will get a season out of him next year, guaranteed.
There you go. Listen, Steve. Thanks for the call. Ben, where do you stand on this? Take us to the break, mate. Rashford, do you want him back?
Obviously. Surprisingly, I actually agree with what Simon's saying, which is a very big shock. He hasn't been great. He hasn't been great. He has done all these things, going out partying and everything, but the club's a shambles. I said, so it doesn't really make any difference if it's happening up above and they can't get their everything in order. How do you expect the
But he's not a boy anymore, is he? And we've got to stop giving these highly paid superstars a pass because environments aren't perfect. You've got to make individual accountability. You're 26, 27 years of age. For 2 years, you've been paid enormous amounts of money and you really haven't lifted a leg for a variety of reasons. It might be the background. It might be the fact that it's not a great environment.
And also, I agree with what you say. Bring him back next season. It'll probably be the best season he's ever had in United.
Absolutely.
Because the World Cup's coming.
Yeah.
And I think Amorim does want him back. But I think the club want to get rid of him because of PSL.
Okay, Ben. Sammy, do you think it's fair to ask you?
You might be right.
Do you think he's been the most scrutinised player at Manchester United? There are others.
Him and Bruno
happily see shit out on loan.
Him and Bruno have always got the most,
scrutiny.
Scrutiny, sorry, yeah.
But your best players do.
Yeah, because they're both capable of more than what we've seen in recent years.
Do you agree with Simon, Dan? If he goes back to United next season, you'll see a blinder of a season because it's a World Cup season.
I think there's a chance. I think the biggest problem Marcus had if he went back to Man U was convincing the majority of supporters and overcoming that fear when you go on the pitch of being criticised.
If United wanted him out, as it's been led to believe, the decision would then be how much does Rashford want to be a successful footballer? Because my view in the summer would be his attitude to United would be, I want paying up, I want exactly what I want, and I want the same as what I've got at United somewhere else. And
I don't think that. No, I think that's that's extreme. I think if he got paid
Wait and see.
up, I don't think he'd then be expecting the same somewhere else.
Wait and see.
You got to
See, I
understand.
remember now going at the boxing with you. It was at Amir Khan and Kell Brook. And Marcus was sitting in front of us and he totally ignored you and chatted to me. This is where this is coming
Do you
from.
think?
This is where this is coming from.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I was desperately trying to get a photograph with Marcus. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Is he not part of the Simon Jordan fan
It's an
club?
intriguing time though, Danny,
It is.
and it's an intriguing thought that he might go back to United and in a World Cup year.
Well, it's back to PSR, and the reality is with Marcus, if you're looking at the bigger... Man United's like a jigsaw puzzle. How are you going to put the pieces together from a footballing perspective to create success? How do you get him out? Who's going to pay the money for him? All those little things. And if you think, well, we need to prioritise somewhere else, I could get him back, kick him up the backside, and get him playing for us.
If Man United don't get him back, how many other suitors might there be for him?
But carries on playing like he did last night, it'll be plenty.
It depends on the economics of the deal.
Yeah.
Does it not burn you, as a commercial animal, Jim, that works in a different space? Does it not burn your backside? I'm a pseudo football person because I owned a football club, but I wasn't a footballer. I get tired of listening to people making excuses for people and listening to other people about the reality of what they didn't get as to the reasons. This kid's been paid a lot of money for 2 years and he should have been worth what he's being paid. And we shouldn't be having discussions about lack of industry or lack of professionalism.
No, I agree
These
with
should be the fundamentals. And all I listen to is people come on and say, well, footballers, how the hell are footballers are different? Except that they're more privileged, more financially remunerated, and live in rarefied air. The rest of us, if you worked in a bank and the bank isn't doing very well and you're bone idle in it, no one's going to say, well, the bank isn't very good, so you get an excuse for being bone idle.
And footballers don't drink tap water either.
Good point. Three becomes four because we're joined by talkSPORT's chief football correspondent Alex Crook, who definitely has an in at Bournemouth and definitely has an in with the owner Bill Foley. Alex, good morning to you. We were just talking there about allure and appeal. It would seem that Andoni Iraola, a wanted man, and in the longer term would probably end up staying at Bournemouth. Is that what you hear?
Yeah, good morning. Well, if you remember, we spoke to Bill Foley exclusively a few weeks ago. He seemed pretty bullish about the prospects, not just of keeping his manager, but keeping some of those big-name players that are being linked elsewhere as well. He said financially, they're not in a position where they have to cash in. There's no issues with PSR. He said, much to Simon's surprise, that actually Bournemouth could afford to compete with anyone in the Premier League when it comes to wages. And I think maybe that was over-egging the pudding slightly. But there is a confidence now, not just from Bill Foley, but from Bournemouth as a club, that Iraola will resist any overtures from bigger clubs, so-called bigger clubs like Tottenham, for example. We know he features highly on the list of possible successors for Ange Postecoglou. But the vibe coming out, the vitality is that he will stay at least until the end of next season. He's already planning for next season, isn't the type of manager to have his head turned. In fact, he was a bit agitated when he was asked questions recently about being linked with Real Madrid, because I think he knows he's got a project at Bournemouth. That win on Monday night reignites their hopes of qualifying for Europe. And I guess maybe in this instance, Tottenham undoubtedly a bigger club than Bournemouth. Even the most ardent Cherries fan would agree with that. But perhaps Iraola is thinking, better the devil you know. Bill Foley is a fantastic owner. They've got something special down at Bournemouth. And it is a risk to go to Tottenham, isn't it, as Ange Postecoglou is finding out.
Alex, as you know, on a Wednesday, we have a former top player in our midst, and that man is Danny Murphy. A former top player who Danny knows, I know, Simon knows him, so do you, Alex. Jimmy Carragher has claimed that prospective clubs could be put off by a trait in Iraola's sides that sees them, according to Jimmy, drop off in the second half of the season. Carragher says the thing that stands out consistently is there's a drop-off. We know how they play, how physical they are. In the first half of this season, his points per game, right from the start, there's a drop-off. In the second half of the season, owners will be looking at the injury record. What's your take on all of that, Danny? There's a drop-off.
Well, there might be statistically, but there's so many factors that you can talk about regarding that, whether it be the size of the squad, which is always different at a bigger club, the ability to rotate, the quality. When you've got more quality, you can adapt the way you play at times, which I'm sure he would, like lots of coaches do. You've got to do what you can with what you've got. So I think it's a little bit unfair to put him in a bracket where just because of the couple of teams he's been at that are underdogs and are not big clubs, where he's had to find a way to make them successful, that he wouldn't be able to change that, evolve it and adapt and that with a bigger and better squad.
As an owner, Simon, would you be looking at that? I mean, Carragher says, you think of Bielsa, Danny mentioned it, a lot of injuries, Jurgen Klopp, a lot of injuries, Iraola, because of the way they play.
Well, Klopp adapted.
When they drop off that much in the second half of the season, if you're a big club, the second half of the season is when the trophies are given out.
Sure. Would I, as an owner, challenge the orthodoxy of my manager in such a way that created doubt in his mind that I was fully supportive of them? No. I'd look to find solutions to any challenges that came out as a result of any data. So if we're looking at the injuries and we're analysing them properly and they're impact injuries, then they don't become part of the discussion, do they? If they become part of the discussion because of the workload, then you look at it in the rounds. But I think the manager plays a certain way. What you'd be looking to do is, rather than suggest that the manager changes his style of football, you'd be suggesting, what can we give you to be able to enable you to continue to play that brand of football for the duration of the season?
Yeah.
Bigger squads, players better equipped based upon the recruitment criteria that can meet the expectations of a team that plays that way.
Size of the sports science team, the medical department, all those things.
Yeah. Alex, just while we're talking matters dugout, Wayne Rooney, on duty last night on our televisions, coming live from Villa Park. But is he in line for a surprise return to the game?
Yeah, before we come on to that, I've just looked at Bournemouth's record at the end of last season. They lost 5 of their last 14 games. Chelsea was one of those defeats. They lost to Arsenal. They lost to Aston Villa. I wouldn't suggest that's a massive drop-off at the end of the season, so I'm not really sure where Jamie's got his facts from there.
Well,
but
the other
moving on to...
Just on that, Crookie, as well, because it's worth cementing it. The other thing is that the start of this season for Bournemouth and Iraola was really poor.
Yeah.
That's right. Didn't win any of his first 10 games.
Because he was adapting
to the start of the first season. Yeah. Jamie's talking about the here and now. What he's doing is taking Bournemouth's current form and superimposing it and creating a narrative out of it, rather than actually having real, proper analysis about the outcomes that Bournemouth produce.
Where's Wayne going then, Alex?
Well, this is certainly one to keep an eye on. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Blackburn on this programme. Simon had some strong opinions when John Eustace up sticks for Derby. They have a manager in there now, Valerian Ismail, who I think it's fair to say is struggling. 1 win from his 8 games in charge. Obviously, there's a lot of noise off the pitch with supporters asking senior figures to stay away from the ground, which maybe isn't helping. At the moment, he's going to stay in situ. He's got a long-term contract. I'm told the owners want to show patience with him. But if this run continues to the end of this season and into next, we know they're a club that will pull the trigger. And the noise I'm hearing is that Wayne Rooney very much would be a contender for that job. Obviously, geographically, it would be perfect for Wayne. The Plymouth move, I think, was always a risk in terms of club size and obviously a long way from home as well. I think what really is key to all of this is that Wayne Rooney was on TV again last night. I think he's doing some really good punditry work. He still has this itch that he needs to scratch, that he wants to get back in the dugout. And I think you have to give him credit for that, because clearly he's not doing it for financial gain. He wants to prove himself as a manager. He's taken on some difficult jobs. And, well, if he ended up at Blackburn, this would be another pretty tricky job to navigate, wouldn't it?
So, Simon, it seems there's always a boardroom out there that wants Wayne.
And they'll get what they deserve, won't they?
Well, what we're all agreed on in here is that when he talks football, we listen. Last night, again, I thought some of the comments he made, Danny, I don't know if you want to back me up on this, was great. I'm not campaigning for Wayne to be back in football. But I would have thought surely it's a matter of time before he gets it right, in the right fit at the right club.
Just out of curiosity, why? You've had 4 jobs, and none of them you've set the heaven on fire. DC United was not a great success. Birmingham was a disaster, and Plymouth was a disaster. And when we sat in this studio around about this time last year, and I could barely contain my mirth at the nonsense coming out of the Plymouth owner's mouth, and told you that this would be a disaster. I'm no smarter than this guy. He currently owns a football club. I don't. So how can I sit there and say that's going to be a disaster? And it clearly was a disaster.
But was it easy to get Plymouth right? Was it easy to get Derby right?
They're bottom in the league. Their job was to stay in the division. Now, he took on a task. Did he make them better? Were they better as a result of the experience with Wayne Rooney? Were Birmingham better? Now, any other football manager, with due respect to Wayne, this would not be a conversation. This would not be a conversation. You'd look at the last person's 3 or 4 jobs and go, well, there's very little. It's wonderful sitting on a television studio and telling people about the very easy things that you can observe. It's much more difficult to lead and create inspiration in moments of adversity. And I'm not suggesting that Wayne Rooney doesn't merit being given credit for wanting to continue to do it. If we're going to make money the only reason that he should be praised because he doesn't need it, we should be praising the acumen. And at this moment in time, I'm not entirely sure, and I don't care who likes it and who doesn't, what acumen he's shown in the dugout that would suggest this is even worthy of a conversation.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I actually thought his best body of work was Derby, considering the circumstances and what he nearly did.
And he had Liam Rosenior.
but the rest of it's been poor. And although I'm with you, I'm always engrossed by his words and his forthright views. I like him a lot. I've worked with him. He's a good lad. But if you're judging it on a CV and you didn't know the name of the person, would he be in contention?
Fair enough. Mikel Arteta's promise of a big summer window, Alex. What does that look like?
Well, I think it looks like Arsenal finally getting in a number 9. Obviously, we've debated a lot the whys and wherefores of not signing a recognised striker, which I think certainly in the Premier League is going to cost them dear. We know that Victor Gyökeres, who's tearing it up over in Portugal at Sporting, is a big target for that position. I wouldn't rule out Benjamin Šeško either. I think they realise that prizing Alexander Isak away from Newcastle will be difficult this summer, particularly if Newcastle qualify for the Champions League, as they're on course to do, and I would make Liverpool favourites to sign him in any case. I wrote about Martin Zubimendi in my notebook on the talkSPORT website yesterday. That deal should be done very early in June. The transfer window, of course, opens on June the 1st. There has been some talk in Spain that Real Madrid could look to hijack that move, but we don't know who the Real Madrid manager is going to be come the start of next season. So I think Arsenal very much in the box seat there. And one to keep an eye on is Nico Williams, who we saw have a massive impact at the European Championships on Spain winning that competition. He's on big money in terms of wages at his current club, but he's a player that Mikel Arteta has long admired, and I would expect Arsenal to make a serious play for him as well. They've got Berta in as the new sporting director. I think they're one of a number of clubs who are going to make a splash in the transfer window this summer.
Crookie, just a quick one on that. Why would Arsenal not be linked with Jonathan David? Because I really like him, by the way, and he's on a free. The other quick question on Arsenal, is Thomas Partey going to leave then? Because he's out of contract, isn't he?
Yeah, I think Thomas Partey will go. There's a little bit of debate about Jorginho.
Big shoes to fill, them. Big shoes to fill.
Well, that's where Zubimendi comes in, and he looks a terrific prospect, doesn't he? In terms of Jonathan David, there are half a dozen clubs in the Premier League who've spoken to his advisors, not least West Ham, who are really trying to get him to London Stadium. But I think when you take into account the signing on fee, because he's a free agent, and the wages, it's going to be too expensive for them, and it may even be too expensive for Arsenal as well. He's certainly not a name that I've heard at the top of their list, but he's going to get himself a big move this summer, isn't he? Someone who just scores goals.
Alex, before you leave us, Tottenham, should they be in the business of losing actual winners in their dressing room, or despite his World Cup winning credentials, you know where I'm going with this, Christian Romero, is he actually more trouble than he's worth?
Well, I think he's someone who divides opinion. That's for sure. I think Van der Ven is the better of Tottenham centre backs. I think Van der Ven, with the way that Postecoglou plays, is probably their most important player. That's why he's kept in cold storage at the weekend for this big game against Frankfurt on talkSPORT 2 tomorrow. But Romero is hankering for a move. I think that's fair. He wants to play in the Champions League. Atletico Madrid, very keen to take him to the Spanish capital. And it looks a perfect fit, doesn't it? Character-wise, Christian Romero and Simeone. It could well be a match made in heaven. So, yes, I expect Romero, unless the miracle happens and Tottenham win the Europa League and thereby get themselves a place in the Champions League, I think the likelihood is that he will leave this summer.
All eyes on the Bernabeu in Madrid. Arsenal go in against Bellingham and the rest. 3-0 up from the first leg, of course, at the Emirates. Can they get the job done tonight and send Real Madrid out and Arsenal go through? It's a huge ask, even although they're 3-0 up. They are 3-0 up. But Real Madrid fancy themselves to turn this around, don't they just? This was Jude Bellingham on how he fancies the comeback of all comebacks.
Remontada. Honestly, I've heard it about 1 million times since last week. I've seen 1 million videos online and made by fans, made by kind of you guys, I suppose, and really motivating stuff. It's a night that's made for Real Madrid, a night that would go down in history, but also be something that people are familiar with around this part of the world. So. Hopefully we can add another special night.
Wow. Remontada, to you and me, comeback. That's what they're seeing it as, and it would be the comeback of all comebacks. One man who no doubt will be confident, I would have thought, that they're capable of doing it, whether they do it or not, is the former Real Madrid president, Ramon Calderon, who joins us live this lunchtime. Ramon, good afternoon.
Hello, very good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us. Simon Jordan is beside me, so too is Danny Murphy. You'll remember Danny playing for Liverpool and England in the past. What about remontada, Ramon? Can this happen tonight in the Bernabeu?
Well, you have to be always optimistic when it's a match, a Champions League match, Bernabeu Stadium, our fans, great communion with the players. When the players come to that ground, they feel something special. It has happened many times, as you know. That's why we build a legend. Well, we need a small miracle, but you have to be optimistic. Even the betting offices, I think the odds are 5-1, or is incredible with 3-0. But that's what happens when Real Madrid is playing the Champions League. So let's see. I hope that it can happen again. All the people here, fans, expect that, and there will be a special atmosphere as always in the Champions League. Let's see what happens, but we are optimistic, of course.
I mean, Simon, you heard Ramon there. All the Real Madrid fans expect this. That's what makes this club different.
Yeah. I was going to ask Ramon, I mean, what kind of Real Madrid side are we looking at here, Ramon? This is a team that's come off the back of... The Arsenal defeat came off the back of losing at home to Valencia. They don't seem to be in great form. Arsenal would be playing this game, if they were wise, not based upon reputation and environment, but based upon the team that they're playing. But how challenging a season has this been for Madrid?
It's true that the last matches against Valencia was a disappointment, and also we played poorly in mainly the second half in London. That's true, but this is another story. Champions League is completely different. I don't know why. It's something special, something difficult to explain. That communion between, as I said before, the fans, the players. What Bellingham said is something that they live when they come to Real Madrid. They know what has happened before. I remember the minute 89 with Man City in the aggregate 0-2, and we managed to pass to the next round, and it's happened with PSG, with Chelsea so many times that, as I said, it's a different story. We are now 4 points behind Barcelona. It's true in La Liga, but we have still possibilities to win that title and to win everything. We are going to play the Kings Cup final and now the Champions League tonight. So, but this is a special club. Everything, when we lose a match, is a crisis, a big crisis. When we win again, everything changes. Now, which is for me amazing, is that surprise. I'm not surprised because I know that happens, but the coach has been questioned, and he won everything last year in Champions League and La Liga. Why is that? Well, I think because in this club to win is an obligation. It's not a success. That is what has built the legend.
To win is an obligation, not a success. Is there a link here, Ramon, between Ancelotti, whether he wins the Champions League or not, and his future at Real Madrid? If he wins the Champions League again, do you expect him to stay? If he doesn't, is it adios?
I hope not. In my opinion, he's one of the best coaches we've had. But to be on that bench is very difficult in this club because of what I said. Is to win is an obligation, and then the pressure is high for the president, for the directors, the players, and of course the coach. It's much easier to sack one person, the coach, than 22 players. Is what's happening in all the clubs. But I hope that he will stay. He's proven to be very, very efficient in any sense. He's tactically good. He knows how to deal with a dressing room full of stars, because he was one of them, and he doesn't want to be the protagonist, which I think in a club like Real Madrid is very important, to give the protagonism to the players. And as I said, he got everything last year. So to be questioned now, to say goodbye if we didn't win tonight, or we don't we don't win the Champions League. I think it could be a mistake, but I don't know. It's very difficult to say.
Ramon, there was a few question marks here in England after the last game regarding our own Jude Bellingham, because Carlo Ancelotti has played him quite a lot on the left-hand side in that like 4-4-1-1 or 4-4-2 formation, rather than in that number 10 role where he's so brilliant at times for England. So do you think he'll continue with that tonight, or Willie, do you think he may put him in a more central role?
I think he can play everywhere on the pitch. He's a fantastic player in any sense. He's defending, he's attacking, he's helping the strikers. It's true that Mbappe and Vinicius are playing on the left, so I don't know what the coach is trying to do. I think also with Valverde is a question mark, because maybe he is playing again in the defense, not in the midfield. Well, it's difficult for the coach. We've changed the midfield with in this season. Toni Kroos left, Casemiro left, and also Modric is 39. But again, all of them are are fit, in good shape, and Bellingham is playing fantastically. I think the fans love him because of what he's doing with Real Madrid. He's pushing very hard in any of the matches he's playing.
Ramon, how do the Spanish view our own Premier League here in England? Is there a degree of envy when you look at the Premier League here?
Well, it's a very competitive competition. We know that, and there's a lot of expectation about the matches there. Anyone can win in any match, which is important, and not to have any favourite when the season starts. And we like it. I think we like football, English football, and we know all the players that have come here. They've been playing successfully with our team. I remember many of them. With Beckham was the last one I had with Real Madrid. And now Bellingham and many of them, they are very, very. There's a football very competitive, and we like English football. Spanish people like English football.
Javi Tebas, La Liga chief executive, is quite outspoken about his take on the Premier League here in England. Do you listen when he talks?
Well, I don't know what they say, but I know that what's happening with the TV rights. I think Premier is getting 3 times more than La Liga. That's for any reason. There must be a reason for that. And it's true that the Premier has done things very well from a long time ago, with the way the time of the matches. Now we've copied that, and we can see all the matches with different times, but that was first done by the Premier. And as I said, the matches are very competitive. The atmosphere in the stadiums is always intense, and that's nice for football. Football is passion, and I think English football that passion shows that passion in every match.
Ramon, finally, we have a new look Champions League format, and we've seen that, and many people think it's been a success. Do you ever think we'll see the European Super League rear up again?
I don't think so. It was a mistake to propose that competition in the way they did it. Nobody knew what was going on with that competition. They said one day at night in the websites of the clubs, and nobody explained how the money was going to be used, why those teams were elected to be the ones to play that competition. I think on top of that, they did it in the worst time for football, when many clubs struggling to survive due to the pandemic, and English teams decided to leave in 48 hours. And I think we learned a lot from English fans. Many of them showed us that the meritocracy is important in life and in football as well. You don't have to take anything for granted, and you have to get what you deserve. And I think the current competition is perfect. A lot of matches. I think the clubs are getting the money they deserve too. Is also fair. Then I don't see any way that Super League is coming back.
Ramon, thank you for joining us. I'm going to put you on the spot before we leave you. I know what your head and your heart might think. Are they aligned? Are we going to see one of the biggest turnarounds ever tonight? Are we going to see remontada?
I hope so. I hope so. Why not? As I said at the beginning, it's Real Madrid, Champions League, Bernabeu Stadium, great atmosphere, everyone expecting that. So why not? The people will be pushing the players to get it. So I hope we can talk in a few hours about another remontada.
Ramon Calderon, former Real Madrid president. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much. Predicting another turnaround of all turnarounds. Terrific hearing from him. The game, of course, live tonight on talkSPORT.